Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nika. We can hear you.
Okay, apologies for delay. You're all welcome to Bincom Dev Center's ICT Career Talk for the month of November 2021. So, like we all know, or maybe if you are joining us for the first time, we always have these career talks every last Saturday of every month. And thank you to everyone once again for joining us this time around. So our theme for today's event is acing tech assessments and technical interviews. So we have two speakers who will be sharing with us about this, generally and based from their experiences. So after their presentations, we give room for questions, or while the presentation is going on, you can drop your questions in the chat section. So did we all get that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So our first speaker for today is a digital payment enthusiast with over 6 years experience in spanning product management and marketing, product strategy, and design for innovation management. Prior to now, she had an oversight of the merchant acquiring product solutions at Interswitch, leading efforts geared towards value creation in retail payments, B2B solutions, while providing strong industry through leadership on agile product management and financial solutions. So everyone, let's welcome our first speaker for today's ICT Career Talk event, Alaba Fadare. Hope I said that. Hello, ma.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Nika. Hi, everyone. Please, can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Like she said, my name is Alaba Fadare. I'm technical product manager for the local. Let me just put up my slide real quick. I have like a slide, which is just more or less like a few talking points for me, so that I can just take information from there. But before we go on, I would like to just feel the pulse of the room. What kind of, on a scale of 1 to 5, what kind of level of seriousness do we have in the room? Is everybody here sort of like serious, looking to, I don't know, what are your expectations? If you can just share in the chat, maybe drop your expectations so that I will know the level of seriousness that I should bring whatever it is that I'm bringing to you. Everyone, anybody? Please say something, so that at least I know that I'm not alone on this. I'm not alone in this. Hello. Should I start calling names?
We can hear you, but I don't think you get your question. I didn't get it. I don't know about something else.
So I'm saying that, okay, so let me just ask you directly. What is your expectation from today's meeting, from today's from today's presentation, from today's conversation? What are your expectations? I don't know if anyone is saying anything. So, okay, how to pass a tech interview easily, learn something new that will develop my career. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Let me see. Adeyinka, you've not said anything. Please say something. Comfort, please say something. What are your expectations from today's conversation? to know the do's and don'ts in tech interviews. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's get into it. I have a slide I'm trying to share, but I don't know why it's not, I'm having difficulties sharing. So what I would do is, Nneka, I will share my slides with you and then you can just put it up. Is that fine?
Okay, give me a few minutes, please.
Okay, so I'm sending you the link to the slide now, and then you can just put it up. Okay, so Damilare says, I'm hoping to understand what problems the tech industries have and how I can solve these problems. I mean, that's a very broad perspective, but at least we will get into it. Matthew says that I look forward to get great tips for passing tech interviews. Okay, so I hope I can help you with that. Once Nneka puts up my slide, let me see if I can put it up myself. Please, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Okay, yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. Let me just put it in presentation mode and then we will take it from there. Okay, so so the topic that we're discussing today, how to ace that tech interview. I mean, the technology industry is very, very broad. It's so broad and it's developing every day. Every day there are innovations, tech space is developing. There are technical roles and there are non-tech roles. I mean, literally anybody these days can work in technology. I used to tell my friends that there would be a time where everything will be driven by technology. It's not a function of what you studied back in school or what your role or job function is. As long as your daily interaction, you have to use a tech tool or you have to use technology as an enabler for whatever it is you do, then somehow you'll find yourself, quote unquote, in the tech space. So basically, just a quick introduction of myself. So this is like a brief intro of me and what I've done over the years, what I currently do and what I've done over the years. My name is Alaba. I'm a digital payment enthusiast and an expert in digital payments. I've been working in the fintech industry for over 6 years now. I mean, I've done product management. I do product management now. My entire career I've done product management, which means that you can consider me a non-tech person. I mean, what a non-tech person means is that I don't necessarily write code, but I actually work with a full software development or software engineering team comprising of solutions architects, software developers, back-end, front-end, UX designers, UX researchers, I mean, to name a few, quality assurance people, operations, product specialists, and all of that. So at the center of all of these things, I actually sit at that center. And as product manager, I'm responsible for the entire life cycle of the product from end to end. So currently, I work as a technical product manager for expansion at DLocal. DLocal is a payment company that was born out of Montenegro, Uruguay. It's actually a Latin American country. Today, I actually oversee technology expansion in Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa, and then some Latin American countries. Latin American countries like Nicaragua, Honduras, Panama, Middle East countries. We're looking to expand into Saudi, and some other places. For Asia, Vietnam, Japan, China, Indonesia, Thailand, just to name a few. And then for Africa, I mean, I cover Nigeria, East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, North Africa. So basically, and what I do every day is that the way our business model works is we find technology partners in these places in emerging markets, and we try to, with a single integration, single API integration, we try to provide payments, enable payments rather for large scale merchants like Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Microsoft, to name a few. So that's what I currently do. But before now, I used to work at InterSwitch Group. I don't know if anyone knows InterSwitch Group here. If you know InterSwitch Group, you can just drop something in the chat comments. So I used to work at InterSwitch Group, and then I held 3 roles as InterSwitch Group, overseeing merchant acquiring, which so I was in charge of product development, improvement, end-to-end, go-to-market of 3 major products while I was at InterSwitch Group, which is IPG WebPay. I don't know if you know IPG or WebPay. It's now called QuickTeller for Business. You might be familiar with QuickTeller, QuickTeller.com, and then QuickTeller PayPoints, which is our financial inclusion arm. That's our agent banking or agent network. So I was in charge of those products before I left InterSwitch. I'm very, very passionate about the future of technology. I'm very passionate about how technology actually improves our lives. So technology is quite fascinating. And then with the way innovations, things are being innovated, I'm actually very, very passionate. Okay, so I'm very, very passionate about it. So quick one, I wanted to just show what my career trajectory has been, so that it can encourage a few people here. I don't know what level in your career you're at. Maybe you're just starting out, you're just breaking into tech, or you're thinking about going into tech, or you already started in tech and you're trying to find a way, you're trying to find your big break. So basically, the reason why this slide is quite important is because unlike what you see online today, where, oh, somebody just started writing code yesterday and all of a sudden is earning money, and then everybody is an expert all of a sudden, oh, I'm a tech bro, I'm a tech sis. Unlike that, there's actually a lot of work that goes into the back end, that goes into everybody's journey, that goes into everybody's story. And it's quite important to understand or to have some idea that without hard work, you can't, as in things don't actually work. You can't succeed without hard work. So in 2013, I started my career journey in 2013. In 2013, I started as an intern, and I was an intern at a company called, an intern at Nokia. Everybody knows Nokia today. I was an intern at Nokia. It was Nokia Research Center, West Africa. I was an intern there. And basically what I was doing there was we're doing research on the future of technology. That's trying to identify, what is the next big thing? What patents do we need to develop as a company? That's as Nokia. So beyond, please, can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, okay, thank you. So beyond, so Nokia was known as a mobile device developing company. That's, they built mobile phones. But beyond that, they had other arms of their businesses, like patents. They actually used to do a lot of research and they used to build a lot of patents. So basically the arm that I worked for, the unit that I worked for, was responsible for doing that research in Africa and determining, okay, what next? What was the next big thing for technology in Africa? So this was actually what got me interested in tech space in 2013. It was like my first introduction into tech, because I actually don't have a technical background. I studied public administration in school as my first degree, but I knew that I didn't want to do public administration, because I mean, what do I want to, what exactly will I want to do? Do I want to be a politician or a civil servant? So getting into the tech space as an intern, and then seeing all of the possibilities of what I could do, was actually was a very good way to start my career. But at the same time, it also showed me that the technology space was very broad, and I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to fit into the tech space. So between here and here, the reason why you would see a dip is because at this point in my career, which was 2013, it seemed like oh, I had everything figured out. I was working for Nokia. I mean, when we are traveling, we travel with escorts. It was actually very, very good. It was a prestigious job. But the thing about it is that I actually didn't know how I wanted to fit in that in the tech space. So if you see the way this graph, the way you see this graph, it actually shows that between 2015, so between here and here, I went for my 1-year youth service, where that one, it was as if I just went to go and it derailed me off the path. I still wasn't sure. I was trying to find myself. But between 2015 and 2017, I went on a journey of discovering exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So I started out as a technical project manager, where I was actually managing projects for some people who wanted to develop software. So I started out as a project manager. These were the years where it was important for you to do certifications and all of that. So I did a PMP certification, that's a project management professional. And then I found that, oh, I was a project manager. But between 2015 and 2017, my career began to take shape, because I found out that, oh, I didn't just want to do projects. I wanted to be able to be responsible. I wanted to have autonomy on what was being developed. I didn't just want to be gatekeeping a process. I didn't just want to be managing timelines. I wanted to have autonomy. I wanted to understand in the development of a product. I wanted to understand from a user perspective, from a business perspective, and find a balance in between. And basically that's what I do today. So between 2015 and 2017, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of the reason why I'm showing this slide is because I wanted to be able to show that process, you need to pay attention to process. There are times and seasons in life, and then you need to be able to identify every phase of your life, and then you need to be able to pay attention to process. Now, it might not be as rosy as you think. So between 2015 and 2017, I was actually earning sheet pay, which meant that I was earning 35,000 naira. I was earning where my mates were. I mean, my mates were already out there making ways for themselves. But because I wanted to actually understand and find what I wanted, I was willing to make some compromises. And one of the compromises I made was in the amount that I earned in the salary. So I was willing to choose learning over earning an income. So between 2015 and 2017, my income wasn't really anything to write home about. I mean, I earned 35,000, I earned 45,000, I earned 80,000, and at some point in 2017, I peaked at 150,000, and everything that I was doing was around this period. But there was a lot of grit that was going into. There was a lot of background. There was a lot of studying and finding who I was. So I finally identified, by 2017, I finally identified that I wanted to be a product manager. I identified that, okay, everything that I had done from 2013 to 2017, this is how it fits into my career journey. And between 2017 and 2018, I was able to negotiate some value on where I now thought I was. So in 2017, I now knew that, oh, okay, yes, I'm a product manager. And then in 2017, 2018, I was able to negotiate value in sense that, oh, okay, yes, I know who I am now. This is what I'm asking you for. Now, in terms of that increase, that wasn't a lot of money. I mean, between 35,000 naira to 100,000, I was able to negotiate additional maybe 80,000 naira here. And 2017, 2018, there was a lot of okay, yes, now that I know what I'm doing, there's a lot of growth. Okay, I started out as a junior product manager. Before you knew it, I started growing in the ranks. And then between 2017 and 2021, there was exponential growth. What I mean by exponential growth is I was able to negotiate at least 4x of that value. And by 2018, I'd gone from 100,000, 150,000. I mean, everybody that sees you, when you just say you're looking for a job, if they don't offer you 75,000, they will offer you 85,000. If they don't offer you 85,000, they will offer you 120. They don't offer you 120, they offer you 150. I mean, that was just the peak. And the question is, how do you break from that point where they had picked your value? So what is actually different between this stage and this stage is that at this point, every recruiter feels that there are 10 different people that can do the same job that you do. There are 10 different people that can do the same job that you do. But now the question is, how do you go from this point to negotiating the value that gets you to this point? So it is you being able to show work that you've done before in the past. I mean, if you're in the tech space, it is you being able to show that you have a portfolio of products that have succeeded. If you are a developer, you being able to show a strong enough source code that says that, oh, this guy actually knows what he's doing, or you being able to ace a technical interview, you being able to actually just talk the talk and walk the walk. So between here and here, I was able to do that, and I was able to negotiate at least 4x of whatever it is that I was earning here. And then, sorry, this is actually, at this point, it's actually supposed to be 2021, which is where I am today. Between 2021, where I was working at InterSwitch, and I'd now been able to work on successful products. That's products that had clout, products that I didn't have to speak plenty English before people knew what I was talking about. If I said quick teller, people already knew what quick teller was. If I said web pay, people already knew what web pay was. So I was able to negotiate from here to here, another 4x, another 5x, and then here we're talking about. I mean, if we're talking about 4x of 150K. When you do 4x of 150K, then do another 4x of whatever amount that was. So basically, this is my career journey, and it was a lot of work had to go in between this place and this place. And I want to also encourage anybody here that it's okay to be lost at some point. It's okay to be lost at some point, but just continue to try, continue to do whatever it is you do until all of the dots start to connect. At some point, I was doing a few things that the dots were not connecting, but when you now start to when you find a balance and you look back, you will start to connect those dots, and surely those dots will connect. I have something on the side here that says, Yoda said this, that says do or don't do. There is no try. So there's no in between. You have to do it or not do it. Just continue to do whatever it is you do. Now, my next slide. Okay, so here is actually where, sorry, I would like to continue to see Neka's face, because I just like to see people when I'm talking so that it's not like I'm talking to myself. Okay, so so here, I know that everyone has said that what they want to know is how to ace a technical interview, but really, you need to understand what you want. So that's why I'm asking the question to everybody now. What do you want and why? Why do you want what you want? What do you want and why do you want what you want? So if you can just take a moment and just maybe write in the chat groups, I'd like to see what you want. I'd like to see maybe Matthew Monday can help out. Maybe you should be the first person to write. What do you want and why do you want it? Peter Kings, can you help out as well? What do you want and why do you want it? Damilare, Akintoye, why do you want it? What do you want and why do you want it? If you could just help out, I'll give everyone like 2 seconds or maybe 5 seconds. Hello, is anybody helping me out? Is anybody helping me out? Okay, in the absence, Nika, let me ask you directly. Can you just please unmute your mic? Tell me what you want. Why do you want it?
Okay, I want to be able to advance in my career. Yes. And
why?
Okay. Everybody wants to move forward. So I'll say because I want to move forward.
Okay, so what does move forward really look like for you?
Okay. I am into product management.
Okay.
So currently in the learning phase. So moving forward for me looks like me being a part of a product that adds value.
Okay.
Yes. Of a successful product that adds value. So that's
Okay.
what moving forward looks like for me.
Okay. All right. All right. That's actually a very strong answer. Oluwaseun Omojola, can you also please come off maybe mute and also tell us what you want and why you want it? Hello, Seun, are you there? Okay, I'll just go ahead. So I wrote something here that says that every job is about 70% skill, 20% culture fit, 10% other internal organization factors. And okay, so I'm the one that said that. So basically, what do I mean by this? So for every recruiter is not necessarily looking for every recruiter is not necessarily looking for an individual who has 100% skill, because the thing about it is that in today's labor market, with the number of people that we have unemployed and number of people that are vying for the same opportunity, you would always find people who have like different skill sets. You always find people who have varying percentages of whatever it is that an organization is looking for. Now, for every organization, what they're looking for is, I would say it's 70% skill. 70% skill in the sense that, okay, yes, this person actually knows what they're doing. This person actually can deliver on a solution. This person can actually, when we give this person an assignment or when we give this person a task, this person can actually deliver. So Damilare says, I want an enviable career because I owe myself success. Okay, thank you very much, Damilare, for saying that. Now, the thing about it now is that skill alone does not actually get you there. For every organization is also looking for culture fit. Now, what does that culture fit mean? For every organization has their individual cultures that they've defined for themselves. For example, the organization I currently work at, what the culture is that we never say no to our customers. No matter what the customer's request is, we never say no. What that means is that if a customer comes to you and says that I want purple elephants that fly, we will ask you, oh, how do you want the elephants to fly? And somehow everybody would start working as a cohesive unit to ensure that purple elephants must fly. Now, that is the culture. So when you are trying to get into such an organization, aside from your skill that they are checking, they're also checking if you have the same culture, if you are going to fit into the culture of the organization. Now, what the inability to tell a customer no, what that can translate to is, it can translate to you having a can-do spirit, you ensuring that you go the last mile, as in you have to just continue to go the last mile, you being optimistic rather than being a pessimist. So I've worked on teams before where, everybody is solution driven, and there's always that one person that says, oh no, I'm not sure it can work. You people go and come back, you meet me here. So there are people like that. So and interviews today are built in a certain way that actually tests that. They try to ask you specific culture related questions, behavioral related questions that can bring to light the kind of person you are, the kind of personality you have, to try to judge if you will be a culture fit. So a lot of organizations do that as well. So if you are interviewing with an organization, it's very important for you to know the kind of culture that they have, so that you can actually align to those cultures. When they're asking you questions, you can tailor your answers to ensure that they can see that you have the personality to fit into the culture that they have. Then When I mean 10% other internal organization factors, now, organizational factors, these are things that you don't necessarily know, you cannot control. So for example, internal politics, internal budget. So I want to, Nneka has told me she's a product manager. I'm a product manager as well. And then we are vying for the same opportunity. So if today they tell Nneka that, Nneka, we're going to offer you this role and we're offering you 10 million per annum. Nneka can say, oh, okay, based on where I am currently now, 10 million per annum is okay. I can earn that. And then I come and they say, oh, they want to give me 10 million per annum. And I'm saying that, oh, no, I don't want 10 million per annum. I want 10.5. Now, it's now dependent. Those are the kind of organizational factors that I'm talking about. Internal politics, budget for the role. In some companies outside of Nigeria, they take gender and inclusion very, very seriously. So, for example, they are trying to get more women in tech. So, for that situation, if one of the objectives of the recruitment process is to get more women in tech, it means that if Nneka and somebody else is vying for the same role, Nneka has more leverage because she's a woman than the other person. In some countries, they're trying to ensure that they drive diversity and inclusion, which means that they want to hire more Black people. So it means that if you're vying for a role with another white person, because diversity and inclusion is a factor, then you have more opportunity, you have more leverage than the other person. So those are other internal factors that you might not be able to control. So basically, when I'm dealing with rejections from organizations, that's if I apply to a place and they tell me no, or maybe I go for an interview and I do a self-assessment to say, okay, how did I do in this interview? Yes, I did well. Okay, culture fit. It seemed like, okay, yes, I was going to be a good fit, but they still denied me. What I try to do is at the back of my head, so that my self-esteem doesn't suffer, because yes, those rejections can actually take a toll on us. So that my self-esteem doesn't suffer, I sort of factor for the 10%, which is other internal organizational factors. Now, moving on quickly. Okay, so this is my own question, my own answer to what I want and why I want what I want. And basically, I do this exercise every time I'm trying to make a decision as to my work or my career. So what do I want? There are a lot of abstracts. So for this particular question, what do you want and why do you want it? There are no right or wrong answers. So there are abstract answers, like I want to be the best product manager, or I want to be the best software engineer. I want to be the best tech salesperson out there. I want to make a lot of money. I mean, all of us want to, in this current economy, we want to make money. I want to make a lot of money. Some who say, I want to retire at the age of 40. For a lot of people here, relocation might be something that you want. I want to relocate from this country. For women, our abstracts might be a bit different. For example, you can say that, oh, I want to be able to have perfect work-life balance so that my family life doesn't suffer. For men, it's like, oh, I want to make more money so that I can take care of my family without them feeling anybody. Now, some of these abstracts can be determined by our culture, our environment. And like I said, answering the question why, it can also be determined by the different phases of our life. So what you want can actually change per time. It doesn't necessarily have to just be one thing. I want to be the best product manager. It cannot just be that one thing. So it changes. Now, that's when your abstracts now become, you start to distill it into tangibles. Now, what does tangible mean in the sense that, okay, I want to be the best product manager. It means that how do you judge that you are the best? Now, we've tried to distill it into tangibles. How do you judge that you are the best? So one of the ways that you would know that you are the best at what you do is by how much value is placed on your skill and your time. For example, salary, bonuses. Can you negotiate flexible schedule? Can you work from home? I currently work full remote. I work from my parlor, which you can see in this video. I work from my living room. I work a very flexible schedule. How hard, sorry, this should be hard. How hard does my organization fight to keep me? Now, in recent times, you would know that there's been a lot of tech movements. That is, oh, you ask your developer friend today, will tell you, I was working in this company. By the next time you see him, you say, oh, I've moved to another company. And everybody, by moving, they keep optimizing for more money. But the question is, the value an organization places on you can actually be seen in the tangibles that you've actually broken down, which is how much money are they paying you? When performance bonus time comes, how are they rewarding your performance? Can you negotiate flexible schedule? How hard do they fight to retain you? Ask yourselves today to say where you currently are and the company that you're working for, or the company that you want to work for. If you tell them that you're dropping your letter, will they tell you that, oh, okay, bye-bye, all the best? Or will they try to negotiate, oh, how can we make you stay? That kind of thing. Now, ask yourself those questions. So for me, I like to walk back from my why to what. Meaning that, okay, where I am at the moment, if I say that the reason why actually is about your motivators. The reason why I want to relocate is because I want a better lifestyle. And how do I get to a point where I can actually relocate based on a job? It means that I actually have to have the skill. I actually have to have the skill to be able to negotiate a relocation package. I don't know if it makes sense. If it makes sense, can you just maybe just drop an emoji in the comment section so that I know that, okay, it makes sense. And I can also see that some people are already dropping questions. I will take time to answer them immediately I'm done with the slide. Okay, so now that we've covered, what do you want and why? So basically, everything I'm trying to say on this slide is just to say that you need to, at every point in time, at every phase in your career, you need to be able to check your motivators. You need to be able to check. Now, if you go back to the slide about my career journey, and let me just go back there real quick. So if you look at this, you would look at the fact that between 2015 and 2017, money wasn't a motivator. That's why I could actually stay in small jobs, stay in small companies, do the dirty work. And then, but by the time I'm getting to 2018, and that I know that, okay, now I can actually command value on what I have learned over the years, money now becomes a motivator. Now you can actually start negotiating value. Sometimes there are some people within my network now that they'll call them on the phone and then they'll tell me, they'll ask the recruiter straight up. Maybe somebody is trying to recruit them on LinkedIn, and the first question they're asking is, what's the budget for the role that you're trying to recruit for? I'm not collecting nothing less than 30 million per annum. If we are not going to do this, I mean, let's not even bother going into the conversation. Now, they have the confidence to be able to have those kind of conversations because they have gone through a process and they have gotten to a particular point in their careers. Okay, so now that you know that, oh, you need to check your motivators, now that you know that you need to pay attention to process, now that you know that whatever it is that you're doing, at every point in time, be doing a self-check to ensure that all the dots are connecting. There's no wasted skill. There's no wasted skill. Whether it's a technical skill, whether it's a soft skill, there's no wasted skill. But at every point in time, you need to be able to identify it, and you need to be able to ensure that it connects to your big picture. Now that you know that, I want to discuss some tips and tricks that helps me ace technical interviews. So in my entire career, I've actually had only 2 bad interviews. Two bad interviews that I personally said, this interview, I didn't do well. I've actually had only 2. The first one was in 2017. Now, 2017. So when I had done all those small jobs, building confidence, building my skill, and then I'd now gotten to a point where I had outgrown that phase of my life. So because I had outgrown that phase of my life, it was difficult for me to transition from that point to the next level. So there was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of, and then because of the different battles that you might have with yourself, maybe anxiety or whatnot, when you get to interviews, you focus on what is not. Now, for the first interview that I did poorly, I focused more on how I looked than communicating what I knew. How I looked, like I decked up, I wore, like, because it was important for me. It was important that when you see me, you don't just write me off, you address me well. So it was important. So I wore, like, I decked up. Now, the thing about it is that after the interview, and when I got to the interview, that they were not asking me simple questions that I deal with every day, I was stuttering because I actually did not focus on what was important. I focused more on how I looked. And how I look, and there was an underlining issue that fed that particular action, which meant that I had the anxiety. I didn't want people to continue to look at me as the small girl that had worked small roles, that had worked in small companies. So I wanted to communicate that, oh, I'm a big girl now, I've arrived. But instead of focusing more on the actual interview, I focused more on myself. So it was a very terrible interview. And that one I knew was a terrible interview. The second interview where I did poorly was that I was still struggling this transitioning into the big leagues. And I focused more on, oh, you need to help me, than me actually confidently speaking up for myself and communicating what I know and how to know them. So I went from you need to help me perspective, and it changed the dynamics in the room because the recruiter now started talking to me anyhow. I mean, me that I didn't want that small girl image, I ended up projecting it in my demeanor, in the way I answered question. I ended up projecting it. And when I went back, I actually did a self-assessment, and I found out that, oh, okay, this person didn't even actually get an opportunity to know what you know, or even hear you out, because from your own lack of self-esteem, you even already killed the interview. Now, what I did, because when I got home, that thing disturbed me so much that in the middle of the night, every single question I was asked in that interview that I knew the answer for, I wrote the CEO of the company. I wrote them, as I wrote out the question, I answered in detail, and then I sent the email, because I just could not sleep until I did that, because I was like, I know this thing. So what happened? What went wrong? Now, tips and tricks. So the first one, so this is where I will be dwelling the most. Nneka, please, how am I doing with time? Maybe you can just send me a message or something. So tips and tricks.
Sorry, I sent you a message already.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get it. Okay, all right, thank you very much for that. Okay, so tips and tricks. So for me, it's actually 3 different things. The first one is choosing the right organization. By how will they help you achieve your goal? So for me, then what I did was that I identified my goal. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. And then I found the right company that will help me get closer to what I wanted to do. So at the time when I wanted to transition, my goal was to transition from these small leagues to the big leagues. So I identified the kind of companies that will help me. Companies that, by their brand equity alone, I don't need to speak plenty English. When I tell you that I work at Microsoft, you will listen to me by default. when I tell you that, oh, I work at Facebook, you will listen to me by default. So basically what I did was I found them in the industries where I wanted to work. Then I classified them. What I mean by classified them is I had like 3 tables. I had A-list companies, B-list companies, and C-list companies. Now, A-list companies, I had companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Google. I had those companies on my A-list companies. My B-list companies, I had maybe more indigenous companies like InterSwitch, maybe Paystack and other indigenous companies. Then C-list companies, you have like maybe other companies like smaller startups, but that are doing really great work in the space that you wanted to do. Now, when I did that, I then started to do like an assessment of, okay, do I have what it takes to land an A-list company? Sometimes you don't necessarily, you will have all of the skill, but something will be missing. So you need to maybe work at a B-list company for you to be able to transition to an A-list company. So I took that route of, okay, targeting and going after some companies in my B list so that at least I could get the experience and get the brand equity I needed to be able to transition into A-list companies. So I did that. Now, another thing that I did was I shadowed people who have worked in those companies. So most times I just go on LinkedIn, I type in the role that I want, and then I find people that are actually already doing those roles and the time they've spent doing those roles. For example, maybe in the industry I am in, I'll search product manager Facebook, product manager InterSwitch, product manager Google. When I now do that, I find, and then I look at the kind of job responsibilities that they have. And then, okay, I go back, I also Google them. I find, okay, what it is exactly they are doing. Now, when they do those things, I try to emulate my career. Like I try to chase after them to say, oh, maybe this person had an MBA, or this person did this course, or this person did this. I try to model my career after those people. And then somehow they become like indirect mentors. So I shadow them, I study them. And then I become what the company wants. Meaning that if Google is looking for a particular skill, and then they have, when you check all of the people that work in that role, they have a particular pattern. So I also pattern my career after whatever it is that they are doing, so that by the time I'm applying, there will be a template to which they are using. So I will fit into that template. So basically that's one thing I did. The second thing was I doubled down and I actually focused on my crafts. That's, I paid attention to process, I deployed products, I cut my big break. I mean, I wasn't earning a lot of money, but at that particular point in time, I focused on the process. And then the last one is power of storytelling. Now, I want to dwell a bit on this. So for the power of storytelling, you are the best person to tell your story, actually. So what I do as a tip before I go to interviews is that I try as much as possible. So I have a Google Drive where no matter what the question is in this life, I put it down on that Google Doc. And then I answer the question. What that helps me with is that it helps me polish my story. Now, if somebody wakes you up and asks you, tell me about yourself, sometimes you might stumble, you might say, I've worked in this, I've done this, and then you talk a lot and then you lose people. But what I've been able to do over the years is that tell me about yourself, I always go back to it and I answer it in that drive over and over. As my story continues to change, I continue to answer that question. What that happens is that I actually polish it to the point where I have like a very short version of it. You hear things like elevator pitch. I have a very short version of it. And that short version, if you wake me up from sleep, if you stop me on the road, wherever you stop me and you ask me that question, that short version, I know it to the extent that it's my second nature, is who I am. Another thing is that when I find difficult questions like that and I try to answer them and I find that I struggle, then I know that there's a gap I need to close there. There's some learning that I need to do. So I go back, I try to double down. If it's something that I need to learn, like if it's If it's a skill that I need to learn, I go back, I learn it, and I try to come back to that question and answer it. If it's a behavioral question, I go back, I try to answer that question as smoothly as possible. That's succinctly, but in terms of clear communication. So basically, that power of storytelling is actually very important. Over the course of your career, it's very important that you actually find a way to tell your story yourself, find a way to answer those tough questions, ensuring that you know how to answer them in the best possible way. Also, it helps you shape who you are, because when you answer the questions and then you read them back to yourself, you'll be asking yourself that, okay, is this answer, is it original enough? Is it original to who I am? Is it original to the work that I'm doing? Is it original to whatever company I'm trying to, or I'm attaining to get into? So basically, that's what I do. That's what I do with my career. Thank you very, very much for your time. I can take maybe some questions. I see Jacob has.
Sorry, Ma.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take questions after the presentation.
After my presentation or after the session?
After the second presentation, from the second speaker.
Okay, all right. Please, can you just help write out the questions so that I can remember, so I don't forget, and then I can prepare to answer them.
No
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You can reach me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Alaba Fadare @Alaba Fadare, or just search Alaba Fadare. You can reach me on LinkedIn. If you have any more questions, you can send to me directly. If you're trying to prepare for an interview and you need somebody to just help you like prep, you can also reach out to me as well. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Ma, for sharing. Thank you. And please, once again, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat section. After the presentation from the second speaker, we'll be taking questions. So quickly, I would like to call on the second speaker. He co-founded Budget in 2011. And due to the attacks in northern Nigeria, he co-created a security solution called Resolute 40 in 2019. He runs Get Mobile Technologies. During the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, he co-founded Skill Up Africa. He has over 15 years of experience and currently sits on the board of 3 non-profit organizations. He is a graduate of MIT Innovation Bootcamp, Product Management from General Assembly, San Francisco, and he holds a Bachelor of Technology in Physics with Electronics. And he's also the founder of University. So everyone, let's welcome Joseph Agunbiade. Hello, sir.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so what's a great time to be here. The last speaker was such an explosive speaker, man, and I believe that a lot of us have, received a special anointing from her. I always love people like this because it's not everyone who is always willing to share this deep. So I'm super excited to have learned one or two things from her, this morning. So quickly, I'm going to jump right into my session. My session will be very short and basically take questions so that we can get straight to where we are going to. So quickly, I'll be talking about how to ace your technical interviews. Let me see if I can pull my slide up there. Oopsie, what's going on? Just a moment. All right. Okay, so quickly, I'll be talking about acing technical assessments and tech interviews. So like she rightly talked about me. I've been in tech for a bit now. And one interesting thing that a lot of people don't know is that when I moved into Lagos in late 2009, one of the first places where I actually started my career was at Bincom. So Bincom is a very a lot of big people out there today, you see them, they don't mention Bincom. Like people like us, we don't always talk about Bincom, but the truth is we all started from Bincom. Bincom in those days was a place where, a lot of us get to meet. There was one thing we used to do then was Joomla Day. Joomla Day was a big one. And those days, Joomla was a CMS, a very popular CMS. And, before WordPress took over, Joomla was leading and Bincom was ahead of it. And, that was how I met Bincom when I was in Kaduna. And so when I came into Lagos, that was the first place I went into. And the rest is, history or story now that we're talking about. So, so quickly, what do we mean when we talk about technical assessment? I've put together a couple of items here. It's a combination of application-based techniques, knowledge-based questions employed to measure employees or someone looking to get a job, to understand, to gauge their knowledge and all of that, concepts, tools, and frameworks on required technical skill and technology. It's a technical assessment. A technical assessment is comprehensive, insightful, and efficient at screening multiple candidates simultaneously. And then also, technical assessment provides a holistic view of a candidate's aptitude to undertake various existing and future technical tasks. So, usually, you do it in two parts. There's always theoretical one, and then there are practical technical interviews. So in the theoretical one, the goal is, the interviewer is trying to gauge your essential knowledge. Wants to see how much, if you understood concepts, some key concepts, applications, and then analysis, basically. And on the practical sides, what they want to know is, you want to provide a real sense of your ability by asking you, to solve problems and then mirroring reward challenges. I'm running quickly through it so that we can dive into the serious part. So usually your questions are always in form of quizzes or experience questions or hypothetical questions. So in quizzes, the goal is you are asked general computer science questions. Now, it is important for us to have these conversations because these days, a lot of people just jump in, learn how to code, maybe buy a $5, $10 Udemy course, and then the next thing they say, they are now developers. But one thing that is important to a lot of organizations is your ability to actually solve problems beyond just coming to write codes. In fact, I see a lot of people learning frameworks now without even knowing the underlying language. These are things that wasn't like that before. Those days, there were no frameworks. It is you that will eventually build your own framework that you'll be deploying when you're working and solving problems. So companies are becoming concerned and they want to really know a lot of these things. So when you take tests these days, one of the things you'll see is you're asked general computer science question. And of course, as someone who runs the university coding school, one of the things that, we do is we train you, we want you to get a job quickly and all of that. And one thing that we need to know is that because of the constraint of time and all that, we might not be able to take you through full computer science. And we also tell you that you can learn how to code without having read computer science and all that. But the truth of the matter is that in your interview, some of these key questions are asked you. And how do you go around answering those kind of questions? One of the best advice I can give to you is, and the way some of us have worked around it is, we read books, we read blogs, we read interview, we listen to other people's podcasts and watch videos. What happens is when you do that and you read, I spend a lot of money on Audible, reading books. I buy a really hard copy. I know these days is rare, but if I'm able to if I turn my camera to the side now, you will see some of the books I have here on various subject matter. It is by spending on those things, because it's an industry you want to go in. If I ask you why are you coming to tech, some of us will say we want to make a lot of money, like the previous speaker rightly said. We want to make a lot of money. That is why we are coming into tech. But how much investment are you willing to make? If you are asked what is binary tree, if you are asked some key concepts, what is our algorithm? Are you able to define it? And so Beyond learning how to code from a lot of this platform, it is important to invest a lot of time into actually reading and understanding fundamental concepts, and it's so easy now. Things we used to have to buy books for those days, you just go online and you can actually read about them. And so it's important for you to be able to ace some of those quizzes, that you read general knowledge about what computer science really is. A lot of people say, oh, you don't need to go to school again. Yes, the truth is you don't really need to, because the knowledge has been democratized and you can access them easily. And so for you to do very well, you have to be broad. You have to read a lot. I used to spend a lot of time reading articles, reading about books. I hope you can hear me. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, but
Yes,
the voice
yes,
is
we can hear
not loud.
Oh, I'm not loud?
Yes, you can.
Is that the same thing for everyone?
No, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
You clear.
All right, great. Thank you. Please, let's just turn on our volume for those who are not hearing very well. All right. So, for the quizzes, they are general knowledge often, sometimes they just ask you a line that you are very familiar with in coding and all of that. They ask you, how do you deal with questions like, okay, in front end, how do you deal with, they can probably give you multiple options sometimes. How will you deal with the security, and security in React, for example? And if you don't know what you are doing, if you've not read about it before, chances are that you may never do that in a class, for example. You might actually not know which questions to select, which of the options to select from. And so reading broadly about the subject, why React? Yes, there's JavaScript. Why do we need a framework? You need to be able to read and understand that. What is the difference between even doing React and Vue? And that leads me to the second part, which is experience questions. Most of the time, the company that is hiring you, probably they have been working and they have a project they are working on. And the reason why they are interviewing and trying to hire is because they are looking for someone who's got that specific skill, and not just looking for a front-end developer. No, they are looking for a front-end developer that can do something very, very specific as a front-end developer. Maybe what they want to implement there is visualization. And then they need someone who has probably worked around, some visualization libraries in JavaScript. And so when they are interviewing you, the question largely is going to revolve around your experience in that particular domain. And so it's not always sufficient for you to just say, oh, I've done this, I've read this. No, you have to broaden what you know about a particular subject. And so in experience questions, they're going to ask you questions that borders around how much of these things you have done. And this goes to speak to people who just who copy people's CVs. If I'm interviewing you, actually look at what you say you can do in your CV. And so it is important that we stop a lot of those things that we do. I see people do that. They just copy, oh boy, can I see your CV? Especially when you are learning together, you just copy someone's CV and all you just change is your address and your phone number. Just because you are doing the same thing. It doesn't mean that you actually have similar experience. And so experience is a very important thing, and how we reflect it is important. So in our CVs now, you talk about, oh, I've worked in this company, or I've built this particular product. One of the things I tell people is always make sure to specify which part of this product you contributed to. So a lot of interviewers are even very, very, very specific. Usually when they're asking you questions, they will ask you that, okay, this product, you understand this product is very big, you have this number of users and all of that. It's not possible that you are the only one that have written this thing. So we want to know what exactly you did, what aspects did you work on? And so if there are projects where you work on an aspect that might not be relevant, you might not want to dwell on that too much. So you probably need to put on the places where you are putting a lot of work. And you've contributed greatly. I also understand that there are people who are new in tech, in this conversation. How, if you are completely new in tech, probably 6 months, 1 year, how do you actually answer experience questions? Where they expect you to have experience and all that. And one of the things that we find handy and helpful those days when we got into tech is participating in hackathons. Often you see people that will say, in fact, budget was created upon the shoulder of a hackathon. CC Hub call for people who are able to build, technology products to solve governance problem. I know we jumped on it. And so when you participate in hackathon, Sometimes 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours, even in some cases 24 hours, you are expected to come up with a complete product. And in hackathons, you have opportunity to work end to end on product. And if you are ever able to do that, one of the things that will happen is that you begin to understand end to end from understanding the problem you are trying to solve, and then being able to prototype it using Figma, Adobe XD, and all of those tools, or Scratch. What's it called, Sketch. And then you understand how you went about creating front end and what you have to do. How did you prepare? How did you set up your framework? What steps did you take? Take you to set up that process? How was the API done? What did you do to ensure that, all of the details? What are the security features you put in place? How did you deploy it? Those questions are very important. And so as an experienced person, you have to be able to, as much as possible, be able to articulate what it is you have done over the years. There was something that happened to me one time. I had an opportunity, and I've not had CV in a long time. And so when I was asked to submit my CV, I really struggled. I really struggled to articulate that I've done so much over the years. In the actual sense I have, but I could not. And that's because for a long time, unlike, our last speaker who had a lot of experience moving around companies and all that, for some of us, it's been a while, that we've changed and moved around, probably been, creating startups and all of those kind of things. So it was really, really a challenge for me. And you might be in this issue where you work very, very long time in a company. Now, how do you handle issues like that? So eventually, after spending so much and wasting so much time, I was able to crack it. And what I did was I was able to put together by looking at projects that I had participated in, and I started writing down what exactly I did. And so how you can avoid that in the future is ensuring that for every single project you are part of, every project or anything you do, try and write as the project is going on exactly what you did. Write it down and make a list of it. LinkedIn is a very good way for us to document our processes. Take your time. LinkedIn is not mining space. Write every single detail about what you have done. And if you think it's too private and you don't want to share, have somewhere you put it. And if you think it's interesting and something that can benefit a lot of people, blog about them. These are very, very vital points. In fact, a lot of people land job with minimal interviews because of their blogs, because some of the questions the interviewer is looking to ask you, they can see that you have answered them already in your blogs and all that. They probably just ask one or two questions to be sure that you know what you are saying, and then that might just be all. The last one is often in some of your interviews, the questions you are asked are hypothetical questions. Most of the time when you're asked a hypothetical question, what the interviewer is trying to see and is that they want to gauge how you solve problem. They want to gauge your process. They want to know what exactly is this guy's process? How does it work? Is he a guy that just loves to just, arrive at the answer? Those days in secondary school, one of the things they test is when you are doing maths in WAEC is you're supposed to show the process. Don't just show us that x plus 2 is equals to find x. You just show x is equals to 3. No, they want to see that what you actually did is to subtract 2 from both sides and all of those kind of things. The same thing with programming. When you are asked technical questions and hypothetical questions, what the interviewer is looking at is how do you go about it? What is exactly your process? If it's company that is very big on agile process, they want to see how you go about it. This is how it will work. Even if you're a freelancer, because you might be wondering, if you're a freelancer, how does this benefit you? As a freelancer, if I'm talking to you, I'm about to give you a project. When I tell you my brief, I want to know what exactly is the next question you're going to be asking me. Some people just start talking about money. Meanwhile, you've not asked some key questions, what exactly the problem the person wants to solve. There are a lot of, questions you need to ask before you arrive at, even start negotiating and arriving at time and all of those kind of things. And so it is important that we have opportunity to practice these things. We simulate this whole experience. We read broadly and also read about people online, on YouTube, on podcasts. People talk about their experiences on interviews and all of that. That way you can see the different dynamics, because the truth is that most of the time, the questions or the way a particular interviewer will ask you a question might be different. So be broad, be open as much as possible. And like the last speaker said, just in getting interviewed for the right job might change your life forever. It can just, change the trajectory. And you're also planning and saying that, oh, this is the kind of industry I'm going into. will go a long way in helping you grow and build your career very fast. And when you know that, you now have to start listening to interviews in those particular industries, because you know that those are places you'll be applying your job to. I'm applying for a job next time. So those are the little efforts that we put in for us to be, better prepared for our interviews, technical interviews. And so when you get into interview, or when you are preparing for your interview, what are the steps? What are the things you do? A lot of people, they cannot sleep. Anxiety takes over and all of that, and you become seriously, sleep deprived. Some people, you keep reading. I've been told of one big man in Nigeria that, they told him all the answers to the question they'll be asking him for the interview. And the person said he watched him throughout till he got to the point of the interview. He was still reading it, and it was just a simple thing. And if he was supposed to be an expert in that industry, in fact, he should have known the answer before. But the guy kept reading it. And when he got to the interview on a very serious matter, I'm not, telling us much about it. The guy got to the interview, they still asked him the question, and he still failed it because he still kept reading. They've told you, and some of us find ourselves in that trap. We, in preparing for an interview, they'll tell you that for this company, sometimes they even tell you the kind of things you should read as a guide for the interview. And some of us will start jacking, as if you want to go and write a secondary school exam or something. First thing you must do is that you must be calm. You must be coordinated. Always make sure you sleep well, at least 8 hours the day before your interview. Don't stay up late at night. When you stay up late at night, you become cranky and all that. And sometimes the interviewer might just say, I don't like this person. This person is a very sad person. I don't think we want such a person. It might not fit our culture. So you can't really tell what exactly the interviewer might be looking at, what they will use to just screen you out of the entire process. So it is important that you are well rested. Sleep well at least a night before your interview. Don't appear nervous. If possible, try and eat something, because you can get there and they will delay you. This is Nigeria. If it's international platform, most times, they respect you and all that. And, most times it's going to be online. But if it's going to be physical interview, you might get to the point and then they delay you and you're staying, for such a long time. And, you are tired, you are hungry. By the time they're asking questions, you're never motivated. This is important that you prepare very well. It's an important thing, because if you get this job, it's going to change your life. And so what are you doing in preparing? It's important that you don't appear nervous. Also dress well. I understand the last speaker talked about, focusing on our dressing. It's because in the first place, the dressing is important. But what she said is that it's not about the dressing. Just dress well. Make sure that it's even your culture. Dress well when you are going for the interview, and don't dwell on the dressing itself. All right. So keep it simple. What I've always known is that when I dress very well, I'm always very confident. I can enter anywhere once I dress well. When you don't dress well, that's when you'll be focusing on, oh, did I dress well? Oh, all those kind of things. And at the end of the day, it might end up becoming the reason why you don't even, appear serious, and they may not consider you for the job. So prepare well. Another thing you should do is to do your research about the company. Yes. They might just ask you one question about them, and you'll be like, why are you asking me? I've not joined you yet. But sorry, there's internet, there's Google. Google, read about the company. Maybe the person that will be interviewing you might even be the founder of the company, and you don't even know who the person is. And it's important that the person who is coming to join them be a sharp person. For me, it's very important. I don't like people that are not sharp. No matter how good you are at what you are doing, if you are a very dull person, I don't even show extra initiative. I easily get pissed off. I don't really consider you for a role, like, depending on the type of opportunity, especially when it's a senior role. I need you to be empathetic. I need you to be someone who goes extra mile. I really want to know what it is. What is it I'm about to do? If I join this, what problem will I even be solving for them and all of that? So do your research, know the culture, know about the staff. I'm always excited when somebody comes and they start telling me about myself or about the company. And I'm like, oh, wow, really? It shows that you are really, really serious. Another thing I didn't talk about is when you don't have experience, you can actually start working. What I tell people in our school is that immediately you start learning from your first hello world, start pushing it to GitHub, start pushing it to your repo. There's all sort of different Git platform you can put to. GitHub is free. Start pushing your codes there. Start documenting it. If you're a product designer, start putting it on Behance, on Dribble. Dribble does not need invite anymore. Put your work out there. Let the world know that this is what you can do. Document your process. Document your process. It's always very important. It's just important that I mentioned that. So at this point, I want to ask, which is most important when you are doing an interview? I would like us to put our answer in the comment section. when you are doing an interview, especially like, on the experience side, or when you are asked an hypothetical question. So for example, you are building a fintech, you're asked to build a fintech app, or maybe you're a product designer and they're asking you to do a quick mock-up of an idea. That if you find yourself in this company, you're asked to do X, Y, Z, how are you going to go about it? I'd like you to answer that question. What is most important in an interview? The correct answer or good process? Anybody? Akintoye Faith said good process. Okay. Anyone else? Just say something. This is an interview. Everybody's saying good process, good process. Good process. Good process. Okay. Everybody here is very smart. Okay. All right. We are all correct, right? When a company is hiring you, they don't always expect you, or during an interview, that you come and show them, that, I can do it. Those days, I used to have some sort of, guy here, and, was working with me on the team. Every time you give him a task, 2-3 days, guy will come and say he has finished. And the thing is working, he's working like, how did you do this thing? So quickly, I started asking him, and when I started asking him a question, I would discover that the guy doesn't even know what he did. So I would now wonder, how did you even arrive at this thing? One of the things that a lot of people do is that they know how to find stuff online. They quickly find it, clone stuff, and then clean it up and show you that they've done the thing. You can do that when it is a generic challenge. In real life, problems are not generic. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Your answers are all correct. It's actually good process. So what is important the most in most companies is that because they understand that in reality, problems are more complex than you see them, all right? They don't want you to just come and show them good answer. They know that if your process is right and you put it together, you will ultimately arrive at your answer. Process is most important thing in solving the problem. I think I've mentioned something like this, like, WIAC wants to see your process. How did you arrive at X, the value of X? Show us the process and move through it bit by bit. And ultimately, we are confident, because usually in these companies, you're not even the only one. You are working with a team of people. So process is important. They don't want the guy who will come and disrupt their process. So come in and it can fit in methodologically, how the company work. If you're a designer, for example, most companies already have their design system. And that is why every time, irrespective of where you see Google stuff, Google Nigeria, Google Rwanda, Google everywhere, their design is always the same thing. Why? They have a design system, and so they wouldn't want someone who will come one day and go and do a design for Google and publish it and it doesn't match. They want to see a guy who understands process and appreciate process, and they want to see it in your answer when you are being interviewed. Very, very important. I'm going to be wrapping up right now because of time, so that we can ask questions. So when you are asked questions, try as much as possible to understand the question. I just modeled this my presentation. Try and understand the question you have been asked, and as much as possible before you answer it. Understanding the question is important. The same thing, when you are building a business, you don't just go and you don't understand the problem you are trying to solve and you start arriving at the solution very fast. And so if you are asked a question and it turns out that you don't really understand the question, the interviewer, in some companies, they call them success manager. Interviewers here, they call them success managers. The reason is that they are there for you to succeed. A lot of times people see, because they ask us hard questions, or what we call hard questions, we think that, oh, this guy is here, just to block me from getting into this company and all of that. But it is important that you see the person as someone who is there to help you succeed. And so you should be able to ask questions. Let's say, for example, you use React and they're asking you a very specific to Vue kind of question. Feel free to be honest, to tell the interviewer that, sorry, I don't actually use Vue. I actually use React. And in React, this is how, if I understand your question, this is how I will answer it. Or can you help me understand the question better as a React developer? Something like that. And if you don't do that at all, be sincere. Tell the interviewer that you don't know. A lot of people don't know that I don't know is an answer. You must have that as an option. Don't be that kind of person who wants to appear as the guy who knows everything. The company don't expect you to know everything. If you know everything, then there's no growth for you. Every company needs someone who can come in and can still grow. So you have to take your time, be honest, understand the question, and then try and give the answer based on what you know. Also, in the case of hypothetical question, like I talked about, most of the time you are given an hypothetical question, take your time and walk through, supposed example before you even get on, to start. Let's assume that you are given a practical, let's say like a whiteboard, like Miro board, FigJam, and all of those kind of tools. And some of these things I mentioned, if you don't know how to use them, please go and learn them. They are all free. Miro, Miro.com is a whiteboarding tool. Today, a lot of companies use Miro board. During interviews, they want you to whiteboard your process. They want to see everything. So Miro.com, go and learn it. They have a free academy on their website where you can learn. Another popular one is FigJam. So if you already use Figma, for example, there's FigJam. You can, watch some of the videos about FigJam and all of that. So they want you to, walk through it, try and ask questions, interact with the person, see your interviewer who is giving you the question like your client. What question will you ask your client? Try to understand it better. I tell you, sometimes that might just be the only thing they want to see. They want to see that this guy is not just an anyhow person. And ultimately, that might make a lot of difference for you. You are given, so if I give you a question that on the average, just, very long question, maybe 50 questions or 60 questions, and to answer it in 50 minutes. And when they actually know that it might not be possible for you, you need more than a minute to answer each question. That is kind of, when you are given very difficult pros there. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, your internet is breaking.
Just a moment. Hello. Sorry, my internet has been bad, so I'm using. So if it freezes again, just let me know. No, then I will repeat myself to focus on.
Yeah, freezing now.
It's not the time. Hello?
You are breaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but you are breaking. So we can't really make out what you're saying.
Hello, can you hear me? Whoa.
Yes, but you were breaking. We couldn't make out what you're saying. Hello? Or is it just me? Can anyone?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me, right?
You're breaking, sir.
All right. Thank you. Come up with the simplest solution. It is not the time. Interview time is not for you to prove yourself. Way to solving the problem. Look as possible way. For you to present that you have. And then on this note, I think I'll stop here. So the last year, before I stop and answer our questions is don't ever give up. And so you get into an interview and 5 out of the questions that have been asked, the first 5 questions, for example, let's assume you're unable to answer. And by the time you are getting to the 5th one, you start giving up. I see a lot of you. It is not come and it's going to land you 6 figures, 5 figures and all of that. And so the person who is going to be about to start exchanging money with you wants to be sure that you are the right person. And so they can ask questions. And sometimes you might actually be answering, but you're not sure if you are right or wrong. And you are getting to a point where you're getting frustrated and tired. All right. One of the things you must do is to ensure your attitude doesn't change. You remain, resolute. You remain clear on, how you're answering these questions. Look sharp. Answer the question. Still answering the question. Be confident. And when you do, but what is important is never to give up. When you give up, the user is looking at everything about you, your emotion to put up this image. if you must do well in a senior interview. On this note, I'm going to stop. There are a whole lot of opportunities. I believe with this little few points, I've been able to help us understand how to ace our technical interviews. I hope during question and answer, I'll be able to answer very specific questions that we may have. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing, sir. So everyone, it's time for questions. So if you have any questions, you could put up your hand or maybe you drop them in the chat section. So I'll be starting from the first speaker. We got some questions when we were sharing. Hello, Ma. Are you still with us?
Yes, I am. I can hear you.
Okay. Jacob asks, how do you discover organization's culture?
Okay. How do you discover an organization's culture? So it's part of an organization's culture is part of their identity, it's part of their brand identity. So most times organizations actually put out their culture. So if you go to the organization's website, you can see their culture clearly stated. Also, another way to actually find out an organization's culture is if you know people who work in those organizations, or maybe you follow them, you can see a particular distinct attitude amongst them, or and then if you can clearly define it or clearly pick it out to say that, oh, in this person's career, there's this certain way that this person was doing this thing, then it means that the organization where the person works has actually shaped, the organization's culture has actually shaped who the person is. But most times organizations actually put out the information on their culture out there.
Okay. Thank you. I hope Jacob got that. And Michael asks, how do you position yourself on LinkedIn to attract the right employers?
Okay, so how do you position yourself? So there's something called, so the way LinkedIn works, the way every search works with like a search optimization engine. So basically there are certain keywords that every recruiter is looking for. The first thing that you need to think about in putting yourself out there first is visibility. So if you can actually optimize your profile to have those keywords, those certain keywords. So for example, I mentioned that for the organizations that you are targeting, if you know the kind of people they are looking for, you can actually use the keywords that those organizations use to find their people. So for example, if you know that if you're looking for a technical product role, many recruiters just go to LinkedIn and then they search, oh, they're looking for technical product manager or technical this. If you're a front-end developer and you want to work in certain organizations that use a specific stack, it's important that, okay, maybe you clearly state that, oh, this is the stack that you know. So most times when people are then looking for resources that fall within those skill sets, they search for those stacks. So if I go to LinkedIn now and then I search for front-end developer, I can put React in the search, and then people who actually use React or whatever stack that they use will actually come up and people will find you. So basically what I'm trying to say is learn how to use search, learn about search engine optimization, and then learn how to use those keywords that are actually used to pull up the roles or pull up the resources that they're looking for, and then just put them in your profile.
Thank you. I have a question for both speakers. You're both into product management, and I know product management as a non-technical tech field. But I've been seeing some job ads, and they've been saying as a product manager, you must have experience in some kind of technical roles they've been putting in the ads. Do you think it's important to have a technical skill as a product manager?
Okay, I don't know if Joseph wants to take this.
Okay, you want me to answer?
Yeah, you can. Go on and just. You want both of us to answer?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Okay, I can go. So often, when you talk about product manager in itself, it's actually product, like specific product in some cases for companies. And so if you look at traditional companies like Coca-Cola, they want you to come and manage a beverage, for example. So they'll be very specific. They want you to have worked probably, if it's a senior role, in a brewery or in a beverage company, something that is very similar, because the way you manage products of that nature is different from the way you manage digital products. Also in digital products, they probably want someone who has worked in financial industry. So if you are transitioning from, you are used to work in the bank, and you're not transitioning to fintech. Wow, the network is really terrible today then. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So in that case, they are looking for someone who has actually worked in that particular industry. So they are very specific, and sometimes in a startup, when they're hiring a product manager, they probably might want you to be able to, because your job as a product manager largely might not be necessarily technical, able to understand the people you are managing. You need to be able to understand some of their languages, some of those kind of things, so that because you are responsible for the vision of the product, to ensure that delivered. So they don't just come and tell you that, oh, we are doing something. They use one complaint. Because of that, you don't know how to deal with them, right? And it's also important you differentiate what a product manager does from what a project manager does, who basically manage milestones, timelines, and all of those kind of things. So as a product manager, you need to have some level of understanding of that particular industry in some cases. And that is why they ask. If it's an entry role, sometimes they are very open. But as you get to a more, there might be specific what's called line items that they expect you to, skills they expect you to have. And that is what you see in those, in that regard. So what it means is that you may have been working for a long time, maybe 10 years experience, but not as a product manager. So it will be a lot easier for you when you transition into product management role, for you to now apply in an industry that is very similar to the experience that you have, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Alaba, I don't know if you have a different perspective to add.
Oh, okay. So I completely agree with everything you've said. But in my experience, so product management is not a linear career path. I always say that it's not just a linear career path. And like I said, technology space is actually very broad and very diverse. But for me, the perspective that I've used in sort of trying to guide my career is that there are three types of product managers. So there's the technical product manager, there's the growth product manager, and then there's the product marketing manager. So to answer your question directly, do you need to have a technical skill? That do you need to know how to write code to be a technical product manager? The answer is no. But now it depends on the requirements of each company. There are some companies who are very business-led. In those companies where they are very business-led, they expect that their product managers are more growth-led, in terms that, oh, you're a product manager, that you know how to maybe track product metrics, you know how to do strategy, you know how to deliver very well on go-to-market. There are certain companies who are actually very technical. They are very technical, so they are tech-led. Most times you would see those those type of companies are the ones that request for, like, oh, they want a technical product manager. And then most times you see a lot of engineering people, a lot of engineers transition into those roles. Now, what is expected from a technical product manager? In a full company, in a company where there's a resource for everything, there's a solution architect, there's a UX designer, there are engineers, front end, back end. In a full team, Now, the product manager is not expected to be the solutions architect. Now, you can have a full understanding, a clear understanding of how the technicals work. You can have a clear understanding of technologies. You can have clear understanding of how that's the product under the hood. That's the back end of the product. But let's not mistake your role to be the role of solutions architects. I know that in many startups, because they're trying to optimize for cost, they try to find one person who can wear many hats. That's where you'll be seeing requirements like, oh, the product manager should be able to write code, so that in case the front-end person is sick, product manager will roll up his sleeves, and the product manager should be able to do wireframing. In case there's no UX designer, or yeah, product manager go and draw mock-up, that kind of thing. So in smaller organizations that are optimizing for cost, you would see that type of role. But the thing about it is, as you grow in your career, and as you start to land jobs in companies that can actually afford to have specialized resource for each role, your own responsibility will become more stable and become more specific. Now, do you need to bother yourself about, if you're a non-technical person, that's you don't have any background in tech? I know that sometimes there's intense pressure for you to go and start learning the tech, so that at least when you're talking or communicating with your engineers, they listen to you, because sometimes they only want to listen to engineers. And then it seems like, oh, product manager, you're just an errand person. Now, commanding that level of respect takes time, and it takes you doing the work, actually. So if you, over time in your career, if you've actually done the work, roll up your sleeves, and then you sat with the engineers, you've understood what they are doing, there's a time you would, because they know that you actually know what you're talking about. You might not necessarily know how to write the code, but because they know that you know what you're talking about, you will command the respect and they will listen to you. I don't know if I was able to answer your questions.
Yes, thank you for answering. A question for second speaker. You talked about like when you didn't have a CV and you advised making a list of everything you have going on. So what if at the point you're making the list and I don't know, your CV keeps growing? I know there are some requirements that say a two-page CV is okay. I don't know if you get my question.
I didn't get the last part. Some requirement that says what?
Okay. Some, that's a CV, professional writers, professional CV writers, they say it's always advisable to just have a two-page CV. Then what if you come to a situation where all the lists you'll be making, your CV is now getting to like 5 pages? Because I read somewhere where someone said he had a two-page CV once, and he went for an interview and he got a feedback that said he wasn't ready. So he went for another interview with a 15-page CV, and he kind of got another funny response. So, like, what advice would you give in that kind of situation?
So while I'm not the CV expert, I'll attempt to answer the question. So if you're a totally new, person, you're starting a career, I wouldn't expect you to have a lot to say. So as much as possible, what would I do? What I teach is people to, is for you to have a single page CV. Go straight to the point. I want to know what you can do. And in fact, most times that just do it for me, because I can go to your LinkedIn page and read more about what you have done. But there are specific jobs or organization where, and that goes to speak to understanding the process of an organization. What are the things they are looking for? But the truth is that as you become more experienced for a much senior role, it is expected for you to have done a lot of things. And in that case, there's a lot of details that is expected. And even most of the time for me, I would, as much as possible, try to avoid the temptation of having extremely bulky CV, because my LinkedIn has every information. So one of the things you always try to put on your CV is your LinkedIn page, because then anyone who is interested in knowing more can go dive in there. So there's no like a strict rule, depending on who your employer is. I'm sure an HR will speak better to this, but from my experience, you have to keep it simple as much as possible. Don't just go and fill up when you don't know. Some people will just be repeating themselves when it's not necessary. You're trying to talk about or describe a particular type of experience from a job, and it's similar to another one, and you are repeating it all over and over again. That will really bore whoever is reading it. There are a lot of things we put in our CV to make it very bulky. Start talking about my state of origin. A lot of those things are not necessary in your CV. In fact, people list references. Most of the times when your employer require reference, they will let you know. And so you can, I was looking at the CV this morning, and half of the things that was in it that made it very bulky were useless, were not necessary. So I asked the person to take it off. So as much as possible, depending on how much experience you have and how relevant it is to that particular company. So for me, I have CVs for different kind of things at this phase of my life. So I would always prepare my CV uniquely to the kind of job, tailor it to ensure that it fits what exactly the employer is looking for. I think that way you can always keep it simple as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. And let me ask this. There are some companies that they have like stages of interview. I think they have the technical stage, they have the, should I say, the stage with the HR. Does it get like really frustrating maybe when someone has passed through the technical stage, they feel maybe this is the main one, I showcase the skills I'm bringing into the company. So when they get to the HR phase, then they are not told that they didn't make cuts.
Okay, if I hear you clearly, you're talking about the multiple steps that happen during interviews. Yeah, these days for real serious companies, they have like this full recruitment process, and it's always very important. Yeah, so definitely it can get frustrating, especially for those ones who take a lot of time. I've seen people who interview for a role for almost a year. Especially for very, very high position, it takes like a very long time sometimes, depending on the organization. I've not really had a lot of those experiences. And so, yes, it can get really frustrating sometimes, but as much as possible, you are the one that know what you saw in the company that made you to apply, especially for the specific role. So it's important to keep it, you be patient through the entire, phase of interview. I don't know, what is the specific question? What do you want to know? When you're interviewing?
Like, if you're able to pass the technical interview and maybe you get to that HR part and maybe don't make the cuts, how do you?
Definitely. So these days there are a lot of people who possibly can do what you can do. I remember Alaba was talking about you grow to the point where you are so unique, like it's just a few of you that exist. That way you can negotiate, you can talk your own terms and all of those things. But depending on the level where you find yourself, you have to, as much as possible, be able to ace that. A lot of company, the culture is important. They don't want the wrong person to join their team. So even though you are very sound technically, but there's a thing they are looking out for whoever will join their team. If you lack it, they might decide to drop you, especially for roles that there are other people. Don't forget that most of the time they are interviewing multiple people concurrently, and they only need one person, and they are talking to like 6 qualified people after screening all the entire screening process. And so those are the places where you can be screened out, and that is why you have to do your homework while preparing for an interview. It is important that you don't think that, I was the best in this technical interview, and that might just be the only reason. Character counts a lot. In fact, sometimes for some people it's background check. You do background check and they discover that there's something in your past that they don't want, or maybe you keep taking loan and you don't pay back. You'll be shocked that company goes as far as checking those kind of things. So it's important that we cross all the I's and dot all the I's and cross all the T's in preparing character-wise and everything, because really a lot of employers go extra mile to know who exactly it is that is joining them. They don't want someone who come and spoil the culture for them. And so you must do everything possible.
If I may add, while I was speaking, I spoke about the fact that some things are not particularly about you. In the process, some things are not about you. So I know that sometimes we find it difficult to deal with rejections. So you've done like technical interview and you aced it. Most likely you did case study too, you aced it. You met with head of engineering, head of products, you aced all of those interviews. And then you get to the HR part, you do that interview, and then they tell you that, sorry, we're not moving forward with you. Some things are not about you. Like I mentioned, 10% sometimes, it depends on the organization, but I like to put a 10% factor to it. 10% sometimes are about other internal organization factors. And I listed a few. It could be that one of the objectives of the recruitment process was to drive diversity and inclusion. One of the objectives was maybe budgets. It might be that we are expensive. One of another objective might be cost saving. Cost saving meaning that, oh, there's another candidate that can double as a UX designer and a product manager, and that way they know that they will save costs. Whereas you are just a product manager. So most times when it comes to those internal factors, there's very little that we can do. Unfortunately, we don't get feedback from companies on those, especially in Nigeria. Especially in Nigeria, we don't get feedback as to why a company is not moving forward with you. So most times, if I'm in that kind of situation, I dwell on myself. I do a self-assessment. If indeed I know that I did very well in the technical interview, I did well in other stages, and then in the conversation with the HR, things just dropped off, then I just, for my own peace of mind, for my own self-confidence, I just chalk it up to other internal factors. It might be that there's somebody else that checked all of the boxes, whereas I didn't check all of the boxes, and it had absolutely nothing to do with my skill or my skill set.
Okay. Thank you very much to the two speakers for sharing. That was enlightening. Thank you. Please, do we have any question from the audience? If you have any question, you can unmute and then ask now. Or you can say no question if you have any question. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
No
I have
question. No question.
I have a question.
Okay, go on.
For the first speaker, I don't know if she's still here.
Yes, I am. Please go ahead.
Okay. So my first question is, did you ever get to a point where it felt like and you didn't actually know what to do?
Okay, have I ever gotten to the point where I felt like I didn't know what I was doing or I didn't know what to do? Definitely, yes. The reason why I showed that graph at the beginning was that I showed a number of years where it felt like I was doing many things. And it just seems like, oh, I didn't know what was going on with my life or with my career. Yes, I have been in those situations before, but like I said, just continue to do whatever it is, and at some point the dots will connect. There was a time in my life where I believed that I was going to be a DevOps engineer and I wanted to do DevOps. There was a time when I even at some point started learning how to write code because I wanted to write code. And then I stopped and checked, like I started to ask myself the questions, why did I start writing code? And I found out that the only reason why I was writing code was because so that I can tell my engineers that, oh, yes, I can write code, so I know what I'm talking about, which is not a really strong motive to be doing whatever it is I'm doing. So the thing about it is that there's a period in your life where it will seem like you're doing a lot of things and they're not making sense. But the thing about it is just continue to do them, continue to learn, continue to grow. And at some point where you start having moments of clarity, you can now start shedding some weight. So for now, if it seems like in your current role in the organization, your job title is product manager, but when it's time to sell markets, they put you there. When it's time to write blog posts, they'll say you should write it. When it's time to do facility manager, you will be there. When it's time to do HR, you'll be the one they'll put there. And it seems like it's a lot of things. But as we continue to grow, you will start having those moments of clarity. And as long as you keep having those moments of clarity, you can now start to shed those weights. So as you are doing many things, you get to a point and it becomes clear that, I don't enjoy this thing. This thing has absolutely nothing to do with where I'm going and what my goal is. I don't want to do this anymore. So when they ask you that, oh, Olivia, come and do this, you can clearly communicate that, oh, this has absolutely no direct correlation to my goal or my career goal. So I would really not like to dwell so much in doing it. But can you do it? Yes, you can. But do you want to do it? No, you don't want to do it because you have a purpose or you have a goal set in front of you. So yes, to answer your question directly, there are moments where it will feel like you don't know what you're doing, but just continue to do whatever it is. And then as you continue to grow, as you continue to develop, it will become clearer, and then you start to shed those weights.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma.
You're welcome.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. Okay, thank you all for joining in. Thank you to Ms. Alaba and Mr. Joseph for sharing with us today. So please don't go anywhere right now. I have a brief presentation to make.
All right, thank you everyone for having us. Yes, do have a lovely day, and I wish you all the best in your different careers with your different interviews. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ma. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Like I said at the beginning, Bincom Dev Center is the host of today's event, and we are a multi-location based training and development center for technology resources and technology solutions. We have locations virtually near you. We have locations physically at Yaba, Ibadan, Kano, Kaduna, Ogun State, Delta. And to find out more about our locations, you can visit the website blog.bincom.net/locations. And some of the services we offer include Bincom Academy, Bincom Tech Internship, Bincom Tech Apprenticeship, Bincom Community Events and Projects, the Light Space, Bincom Global Tech Program, Emigrate, Bincom Mentoring Platform, and the Labs by Bincom. So drilling down into some of the services which we offer in Bincom Dev Center, we have the Bincom Academy, which is a 4 week training which takes a Montessori approach, and we have classes available in the listed classes on your screen, and the fee is just 50,000 naira. To find out more about this, you can visit the website bincom.net/academy. So the next service is Light Space, which is a helpful working space intended to encourage collaboration and drive innovation in the startup ecosystem. And our locations include Yaba, Oyo State, Kano State, Kaduna, Delta State, and Ogun State. And we have the Bincom community events and projects, which is divided into 5 type of events. We have meetups, the master classes, the idea sharing events, the explore on the move, the challenge, and the brainstorm events. So today's event is an example of an idea sharing event. And if you stick with us by 2:30, we have a Bincom Tech Career Path Deep Dive series by 2:30 p.m. today. So these are examples of some of the events which we have. So the next service is Bincom Global Tech Program, which enables you to learn skills, gain experience, and gain exposure. And you also have the experience to learn tech now and pay later. So hang on, there's a video that's about to be played. Okay, sorry, forgot to share sound. On share, then share with sound.
What are the things you need for this program? All you need is your laptop device, a hunger and a passion for IT. Those are the core tools that you need. The total cost of the Bincom Global Tech program for the period of 1 to 2 years is just 1.2 million naira. But you don't need to worry about that because it gets better. We have various financing options to help you cover the cost of the program. So you don't need to have any money to even apply or be admitted to the program. One of the financing options that are available for this program is the income sharing agreement. What that simply means is that the company will sponsor your learning. So you would learn for the period of 1 to 2 years and you only start paying back when you get a job and you start earning your income after this program. This means that aside from skills, experience and exposure, the company is also willing to invest its own money on you. That's a total package. What are you waiting for? You need to go on our website, bincom.net/global tech. You need to register and then launch your global tech career. I'm sure that the tech world, the tech industry is waiting for a great talent like you. Thank you.
Okay.
What are the things you need for this program?
Then the next service is the immigrant service. Then we have the labs by Bincom, which is a 3 to 6 months program. Then we have the ambassador campaign, where you can earn 10% of any of our services you refer to. So if you have any questions about this, you can reach us through the email or the numbers in your screen. So thank you for joining us for today. And I'll see you all by 2:30.